I watched a billionaire steal my daughter, frame me for a crime I didn't commit, and get me sent to prison for 20 years, just so she could raise my child like a trophy. And the worst part, she told my little girl I was dead. You think money can't buy a family? Let me show you how close it came. Before I start, do me a favor and drop in the comments where you're watching from. I love seeing how far stories like this travel: New York, Houston, Manila, London, wherever you are. My name is Clara, and I used to be invisible. I was never famous, never powerful, never important. I was just a tired waitress who loved her kid and tried to make rent every month. That was my whole personality. Survive, feed my daughter. Keep her warm, keep her safe. I didn't care about anything else. I didn't even care about myself the way I cared about her. If you're a parent, you get that. You'd do anything right. Anything. I met Johnson at a little diner on 5th Street back when I still believed life could settle down and be good. He was a regular. Came every Tuesday morning for coffee and pancakes, always in a pressed shirt, always way too polite to be from around here. He was sweet, gentle, funny in a quiet way, and he looked at me like I wasn't just the girl behind the counter. I didn't know at first that his mother practically owned half the city. I didn't know that his last name, Hayes, had weight. I just knew he made me feel like I wasn't alone. We fell in love. Yeah, that happened. He said he didn't care that I was a waitress. He said he didn't care that I lived in a little one-bedroom and sometimes paid bills late. He said, I don't care about any of that, Clara. I just want you. When I found out I was pregnant with Mary, I was scared, but he wasn't. He was happy. He kissed my stomach and whispered to her and told her, I'm your dad, I'm right here. He promised he was going to tell his mother, Veronica. He promised he was going to make her understand. He promised we could be a family. Promises are easy when you're still alive. He died in an accident before Mary even turned 3. Just like that, everything that was supposed to happen didn't. You ever felt the ground leave under you like you're falling and nobody even notices you're not standing there anymore? That was me. After he died, I slid fast. Rent got behind. I was working doubles and still couldn't keep up. Free clinics, food banks, shelters. Some nights we slept in my car with the heat on low so the battery wouldn't die, and I'd keep my hand on Mary's chest while she slept just to make sure she was still breathing in that cold air. I wasn't proud of that life, but I wasn't ashamed either. I was doing what I had to do, you know what I mean? And still, every Thursday I took Mary to his grave. I wanted her to know her father wasn't some story. He was real, he loved her, he wanted her. We'd pick tiny little wildflowers from the side of the road and bring them because I couldn't afford roses, not real ones. I would hold her while she cried and asked why Daddy was in the ground and not coming back out. One cold Thursday, I'm there at his grave with Mary. She's 6 at this point, skinny as a bird jacket with holes in the sleeves, and we're both crying. When I hear heels, expensive heels, sharp, confident, angry, I turn around, and there she is, Veronica Hayes, the Steel Queen. People in this city are low-key scared of her. She's rich like you only see on magazine covers, not in real life. Custom coat, perfect hair, the kind of face that looks like it's used to getting what it wants the first time. She looks at me like I'm dirt that somehow splashed onto her shoe. And she says, "Excuse me. This is a private grave. You need to leave." Just like that. "No, who are you? What's going on?" "Nothing. Just get out." I said, "Ma'am, I come here every week. I'm not trying to bother you. I'm just talking to him." She narrows her eyes and goes, "Who are you, and why are you here with a child at my son's grave?" That's when I knew my heart just dropped. This is his mother. This is the woman Johnson was afraid of. And I'm standing there holding the little girl she doesn't know about. I swear to you, I could feel the ground shaking under me. I said, "My name is Clara. This is my daughter Mary. And Mary is Johnson's child." The roses fell out of her hands. I watched them hit the grass. Red petals everywhere. She looked at me like I slapped her and whispered, "What did you just say?" I said it again quiet because Mary was shaking, and I didn't want to scare her more. "Mary is your granddaughter." Pattern interrupt this is the moment everything explodes. At first, Veronica just flat out calls me a liar. She tells me I'm some scammer who heard she was rich. She says my son would have told me. He told me everything. I'm thinking, lady, he didn't tell you what his favorite diner was. Calm down. But I don't say that. I just reach into my pocket and pull out the only real thing I have, the photo. It's the three of us. Me younger and healthier. Johnson smiling the way he only ever smiled with us. And him kissing baby Mary's forehead. On the back in his handwriting, my two girls, my whole world. J. Veronica's face changes in slow motion. She looks at the picture, then at Mary, really looks at her. Same nose as Johnson. Same eyes, those deep brown eyes with little gold flecks in them, like sunlight in coffee. Same soft smile. And I can see it. I can see the moment this billionaire realizes, oh God, I'm looking at my son's child. And something ugly moves in her. She doesn't cry, she doesn't hug us, she doesn't say, "Oh my God, I have a granddaughter." She goes straight to control. "Where are you living?" she asks me like she's already making a plan. I didn't want to answer her. I didn't want to give her anything. But I told the truth because that is who I am. I said shelters mostly. Friends sometimes. I'm doing the best I can. She looked me up and down and said, "You're raising my son's child in shelters." I told her she's loved. She's safe. Veronica leaned in so close I could feel her breath and said, Not anymore." Let me stop right here and ask you, if it were you in that moment and someone with money power lawyers, everything looked you dead in the face and basically said, "I'm taking your kid," what would you have done? Be honest in the comments. Because I'll tell you what I did. I held my daughter tighter and said, "She's mine. You don't get to touch her." Veronica just smiled. Cold, slow, confident. And walked away, dialing her phone. That's when I should have run. That night, while I'm trying to figure out how to stretch $5 into 2 more days of food, she's in her glass office on the top floor of Hayes Tower, calling her private investigator. Marcus. I didn't know this at the time. I learned later. She told him I want everything on Clara Mitchell. Where she's worked, who she knows, if she's ever been arrested, if she drinks, if she's unstable, everything. This is how rich people fight. They don't scream in your face, they build a case and erase you on paper. A day later, she calls me. She sounds gentle now, almost kind. That scared me worse than the anger, honestly. She says, "Clara, listen. I'm sorry for how I reacted. I was in shock. I believe you. I just want what's best for Mary. Let me help you." I said, "Help me how?" She says, "Housing, school, stability, a future, money for her education. I can give her the life Johnson would have wanted. But first I need legal proof she's his. Just a simple DNA test. Nothing more. Red flag, right? But when you're exhausted and you're broke and somebody is offering to finally give your kid a bed that's not on a shelter cot, you want to believe. I let her take Mary to a clinic for a cheek swab. I went too. I held Mary's hand the whole time. My stomach hurt the whole day like I'd swallowed ice. I told myself I was doing the smart thing. I told myself this was for Mary, not for me. I told myself Veronica just wanted to accept her granddaughter officially. I lied to myself so I could sleep. 2 days later, she had the paper in her hand. 99.9% match. Paternity confirmed. Mary is legally her son's child. In that moment, she could have chosen love. She could have said, "Welcome to the family." She could have hugged me and said, "We'll figure this out together." Instead, she picked up the phone, called her lawyer, and said, and I quote, "File for custody. I'm taking my granddaughter. Stick around, because what happened next will blow your mind." Her lawyer actually tried to warn her. He said, "Veronica, you can't just take someone's kid. You need to prove the mother is unfit. You need evidence." You know what she said? "Then find it. Or create it." Yeah. Create it. Here's where everything turns. Here's the twist. Within a week, I've got a social worker showing up at the shelter asking why my daughter sometimes misses school, why she's not always in clean clothes, whether I've ever left her alone to go to work. She writes everything down in this little notebook and never smiles. Then at work, I was bussing tables at a diner by then. My manager calls me into the office and says, "Money went missing from the register, and people saw me near it, and we have to let you go." I'm like, "What are you talking about? I would never steal," and he just shrugs like his hands are tied. That night I cried in the bathroom so Mary wouldn't hear me, but she heard me anyway. Couple days after that, I'm walking Mary back from school in the rain, and a squad car pulls up. 2 officers get out. "Ma'am, are you Clara Mitchell?" I said yes. They said, "You're under arrest for theft." I started laughing. I actually laughed like, no way, this is some mix-up. I said I didn't steal anything. I didn't do anything wrong. I have my daughter with me, we're just trying to go home. They turned me around and cuffed me right there on the sidewalk, in the rain, in front of my baby. Mary started screaming, "Don't take my mommy. Please don't take my mommy. She didn't do anything. I can still hear that sound. I hear it when I try to fall asleep." They said Child Protective Services was already on the way. I begged them not to take her. I said, "She has nowhere to go. I'm all she has." The cop just said, "It's procedure." You ever watch your kid reaching for you out of the back window of a police car, face soaked in rain and tears, while your hands are locked behind your back, and you can't even wipe her face? I hope you never do. The trial was a joke. I didn't understand half of what was happening. They assigned me some overworked public defender who basically told me to pray. They said I stole $500 and hid it in my own bag at work. They even brought the cash into court like, "Here it is, ladies and gentlemen." I said, "That's not mine. Somebody planted that. Somebody set me up." But who's the jury going to believe? A homeless waitress? Or a restaurant manager who says I'm troubled and unreliable? Do you think that's fair? The judge looked at my situation. No stable housing, inconsistent income, a kid missing school. And he said I was showing a pattern of poor judgment. That's how he put it. Then he gave me 20 years. 20. I screamed, I begged. I said, "I have a daughter, she needs me. Please, please, please don't do this." And he just told the guards to remove me from the courtroom. As they dragged me away, I looked over my shoulder, and I will never forget what I saw. Veronica, sitting in the back row in a perfect black suit, calm, hands folded, watching. And when I screamed, "You monster, you did this, you stole my baby," she didn't deny it. She didn't even flinch. She just smiled at me, this tiny, satisfied smile like, Checkmate. That was the last time I saw my daughter for 20 years. Let me fast forward and tell you what money really buys. Money bought a guilty verdict. Money bought a child. Money even bought a story, because when Veronica took Mary home that night, she didn't tell her. Your mom got arrested for something she didn't do, and I helped make that happen. No. She sat this scared 6-year-old girl on a huge bed in a giant cold guest room and said, "Your mother is sick. She went somewhere to get help. I don't know when she'll be back. But I'm your grandmother, and I'm going to take care of you now." That's what she told my daughter. She told her I was sick. She told her I left. And Mary, little heartbroken Mary, had to build her whole life on that lie. Meanwhile, let me tell you what prison is like. Prison is the same walls every day for 2 decades. It's metal and concrete and fluorescent lights buzzing at 3 a.m. It's folding laundry for hours until your hands go numb. It's quiet crying at night because you can't let it out during the day. You can't show weakness in there. It's writing letters to your child every week telling her you love her, you didn't leave her, you're coming back for her. And then finding out those letters were mailed to Veronica's mansion and burned in the fireplace. Yeah, she burned them. I walked out when I was 52 years old. My hair had gone gray in places. My hands had those little work scars that never fully heal, but the fire in me, that I'm not done part, that was still there. The state gave me $40 and a bus ticket. No apology. No our mistake. Just don't come back. I got a job with a cleaning company because that's who would hire me. I mopped lobbies in glass buildings I couldn't afford to even sit down in. I emptied trash cans in offices where people didn't bother to look me in the eye. I scrubbed bathrooms for people who would have clutched their purse tighter if they saw me on the street. And one morning, in one of those buildings, I saw her. She was walking through the lobby in this sharp gray suit heels, clicking on marble like confidence itself, hair pulled back, leather briefcase in her hand. She looked like she ran the place, because she did. I looked up and felt something in my chest snap and light up at the same time. It didn't make sense. I didn't recognize her, not really, because the last time I saw my baby, she was 6 years old and crying for me in the rain. This woman was 26, grown, polished, powerful. But I felt her. My body knew before my mind did. I froze, just staring. She saw me staring and gave me this little polite smile like, "Good morning." I whispered good morning back, but what I wanted to say was, "Mary, baby, is that you?" I didn't say it. I couldn't. I was scared I was wrong. I was scared I'd scare her. But she came back down later that day like she had an excuse to be in the lobby again, and she talked to me. Just talked to me. She said, "Rough day," I said, "Always." You and she actually laughed and sat down next to my cart like we'd known each other for years. And tell me why this successful, perfect, untouchable woman looked tired and lonely. Tell me why her eyes looked like mine. Tell me why, when she leaned her head on my shoulder one bad afternoon and whispered, "I feel empty all the time," and I don't even know why I almost broke down right there holding her. For weeks we kept doing that. She'd bring me coffee. I'd bring her real food when I saw her working late and forgetting to eat. She started telling me things she doesn't tell other people I could tell. And I started calling her sweetheart without thinking, and every time I did it, she'd get this look on her face, this soft look, like a memory trying to come back. Neither of us said the word mother, neither of us said the word daughter. We were both saying it without saying it. Then Veronica showed up. Of course she did. One night she comes to the office unannounced. She looks through the glass wall and sees us sitting together talking, laughing like family. And she panics because control is slipping. She calls Mary later and says, "Fire the cleaning woman. She's not fit to be here." And my daughter who was raised to obey, raised to be perfect, raised to follow orders, said one word I'd been praying to hear for 20 years. She said no. Veronica completely lost it. The next evening, she corners me in the parking garage under the building when I'm getting off my shift. It's dark, concrete, echoey, the kind of place where nobody helps you, even if they hear you yell. She steps out of the shadows, and it feels like I'm back in court again. She says, "You're going to quit. You're going to leave this city. You're going to stay away from Mary, or I will ruin you again, and trust me this time, it'll be worse than prison." I said, "You already stole my life. I don't have anything left for you to take." She said, "Mary is mine." I said, "She's not property. We're chest to chest, and I'm shaking and I'm furious, and I'm not scared of her anymore, not after 20 years in a cage." And then we both hear footsteps. We both turn, and Mary is standing there. She's holding her purse, watching us, eyes wide, face pale. She heard everything. Veronica tries to jump in fast, like Mary's sweetheart. This is not what it looks like. This woman is dangerous. She's been obsessed with our family for years. And Mary just lifts her hand and says, "Stop." Then she looks at me. Not past me. At me. "What did you mean," she asks, voice shaking, "when you said she stole your daughter?" I felt like I couldn't breathe. This was the moment. 20 years of waiting, and here it was. I said, "Mary, I'm your mother." Silence. You could hear the air conditioning humming 3 floors up. Veronica says she's lying. She's mentally unstable, blah, blah, blah. Same script as always, but Mary doesn't look at her. She takes one slow step toward me and whispers, "No. Tell me the truth. Tell me everything." So I told her. I told her about the diner. I told her about her father holding her and crying and calling her my whole world. I told her about Thursdays at the grave and the DNA test and the fake theft charge and the 20-year sentence, and your grandmother told you I was sick, but I was in prison begging to see you. I pulled out that old photo. I'd kept it safe for 2 decades, folded in plastic close to my skin, and I handed it to her. She looked at that picture of herself as a baby in my arms, and Johnson kissing her, and her whole face just broke. She turned to Veronica and said, "How could you?" Veronica actually tried to justify it. "I gave you everything," she said, "and I'll never forget this, because she was crying now too. She couldn't even feed you. You were living in shelters. You would have grown up with nothing. I saved you." And Mary, my sweet girl, my brilliant girl, said, "You gave me money." She would have given me love. That was it. That was the crack in Veronica that finally went all the way through. Mary told her, "Don't come near me again. Don't call me. Don't show up at my job. We're done." Veronica whispered, "Please don't leave me alone." And for the first time in 20 years, I actually saw fear in that woman's eyes. Real fear. But it was too late. You can't cage a heart and expect it to thank you later. That night, Mary packed her things and left Veronica's mansion. She moved into this tiny apartment across town. Not fancy. No marble. No gates. No staff. Just a warm little place with cheap lights and secondhand furniture. And me. The first week was awkward, I'm not gonna lie. We're mother and daughter, but we're also strangers. I'd make breakfast and she'd look at me like she was trying to memorize me, like she was scared I'd disappear if she blinked too long. She'd ask me questions like, Did I like music when I was little? And I'd say, Hubba. You used to fall asleep on my chest with my hand on your back and you'd hum. You didn't even sing words. You just hummed like a little bird. She'd ask, did Dad love me? And I'd tell her he was obsessed with you. He cried holding you. He said you were his whole world. Sometimes she'd just sit there and cry because none of that was in her memory. Veronica had erased it. But here's the part I want you to really hear, the part that still hits me in the throat. One night, maybe 2 weeks after she moved in, Mary came into the little living room where I was folding laundry and just stood there, hands shaking, eyes glossy. And she said, Mom, can I call you that? I couldn't even answer at first. I just grabbed her and held on and cried into her hair and said, yes, baby. Yes, I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere. We visit Johnson's grave together now. We bring real roses. We talk to him like he's just running late, like he's about to walk up the path with that soft smile. The first time we went together, we looked up and saw Veronica way in the back, standing under a tree, watching us, but not coming closer. She looked small. That woman who once sat on top of the whole city looked tiny and alone. We didn't go to her. We didn't scream at her. We didn't make a scene. We just turned away and left, holding on to each other. And I realized something important. You can own buildings, restaurants, apartment towers, whole city blocks. But if you build your life on lies and control, you end up with no one standing next to you when it's quiet. You end up rich and untouched and completely alone. So I need to ask you, and I really want you to answer in the comments, because this is where people start arguing like crazy. Do you think Veronica was evil? Or do you think she was a broken mother doing a horrible thing for what she thought was the right reason? If it were you, would you forgive her? Do you believe money should be able to take a child out of poverty like that? Even if it means tearing that child away from their real parent, or is that kidnapping with paperwork? Tell me what you think. Tell me if you think she deserves a second chance with us, or if she made her own loneliness and now she has to live in it. And if you've ever felt powerless up against somebody with money, with connections, with that attitude like I always win, I want you to drop your story too, because people need to hear how this really works in real life. Stick around with this channel, like this video. If it hit you, share it with someone who needs to hear that truth doesn't stay buried forever. And make sure you're subscribed, because what happened to me was not an accident. It's a system, and we're going to talk about it.